In 1300 BC, Hebrews have been slaves to the Egyptian gods and built their statues and cities to raise the gods' glory. In the king's speech, the minister says that the Hittite army is planning to attack us because they think we want to fight them. The king says, I don't want to wait until that day when the Hittite army attacks on palace. The king asks the astrologer about the war, who says nothing is clear, but whoever saves a general in this war will win very soon. Moses and the king's son Ramses laugh at the astrologer's talk. Ramses asks Moses, if you see me in danger during the war, just ride another way. The king takes Moses and Ramses as sons and gives them swords, so they can help each other in the war. They leave for the war and attack the Hittites. Hittites don't have enough strength to confront them. During the battle, Ramses is just about killed by the attack and Moses saves him from dying. He then orders the soldiers to take him to the palace and asks them to leave the war. After this, Moses goes to the king, who asks him about the war, and he says nothing. The king knows he saved his son, but Moses doesn't believe in prophecies and says it was just a coincidence. The king says, even you are not my blood, but I trust you more than my son. The Grand Vizier recites Ramses's words about the war, and the king stops him and asks Ramses to meet with Pitom's minister Hijab. Moses goes to Ramses and tells him that I will go see the minister and forget whatever happened in the battle because it was my duty to save the general. Ramses, taking out the venom of the snakes, told him that snake venom is less dangerous than human venom, even if it is my father's. The next day, Moses reaches Pitom to meet the Hijab, who says he needs soldiers to control the rising workers. Or else he will have to kill them before they start a revolt. Moses stops him from massacring and says that first I will talk to all of them and then it will be decided whether to give you soldiers or not. Moses meets with the Hebrews' elders. They say they want to see Canaan, but Moses tells them it is impossible to return from Canaan alive. He stops them from rebelling and says that I am Bithia's son, so I am giving you advice. Before leaving, slave Joshua comes to him saying that Nun wants to meet you in prayer house. Moses tells Hijab that you are not allowed to do all this and asks him for reports. Hijab asks, if I have done anything wrong, tell me, and Moses tells him to stop living like kings. Moses goes to talk with Nun, who tells him about his real mother and calls him Hebrew. Moses gets angry to listen and starts to leave, but the Nun begs him to listen to his words. Nun sends other people out and tells him about the prophecy. It was prophesied that a Messiah would be born to the Jews, and on this day you were born, and the king ordered to kill every child born. Your sister put you in a basket and floated you in the river, and then you were brought up by Bithia. Two soldiers standing outside hear this, and Moses thinks it is a lie and leaves. Two soldiers outside call him a slave and he kills them and leaves. The next day, the guards inform Hijab about the incident. Moses returns to the palace and finds the king is sick. The king asks him about the vizier and he says that man is a thief. The king dies and Ramses becomes the new king. Hijab arrives at the palace, and Moses orders to arrest him. Hijab begs to talk with the king and Ramses sends everyone out. At night, Moses asks him why you didn't arrest him, and he says Hijab told him that you're Hebrew. Moses says, I don't believe in this story, and Ramses calls Bithia to know the truth. Bithia doesn't respond to his question and says Hijab is a thief and you are taking his side. Ramses then calls Miriam, asking her if she is Hebrew and Moses' sister. At first, she refuses to accept this, but as Ramses attempts to cut her hand, Moses angrily says she is my sister. He puts him in jail and exiled him from the city. Moses says goodbye to Bithia and her sister and set on horseback to find a new life. Walking for miles, his horse dies and he confronts two soldiers. He kills the soldiers, then takes their horses and continues his journey. On the way, he sees the women of a tribe near a well, whom some people see as cruel. He shows them his sword and asks them to leave, and seeing this, Zipporah invites him for a meal. As time passes, Moses and Zipporah become close and get married. 9 years later, Ramses' kingdom, he ordered his labor to build his house and statue as soon as possible. Moses is shooting with his son Gershom and he points to the mountain and tells Moses that it is God's mountain. Moses says that nothing like that happens because Moses believes in the Egyptian gods. Then one day, while tending goats, Moses reaches the mountain where due to heavy rain he slips and his head is hit with rocks. Regaining consciousness, Moses sees a light and a child. He asks him what he wants and the kid says, I need a warrior. God comes in the form of a child to speak to him and tells him to go and save his people from Pharaoh's oppression. After Moses recovers, he sharpens his weapons and, saying God bless to his family, sets out on his journey. Reaching the city, he sees the slave situation is worse than before. He meets Nun, his real brother Aaron, and his nephew. Ramses is at the horse farm where Moses finds him with a sword at his neck. Moses says to him that you have wronged the people so much and do not even give them their rights. Moses makes a compromise before him and says that if you want your life, free the slaves. Ramses tells the situation to his cabinet, saying Moses finds his God and now we've to kill him before he starts rebellion. He sends his army into the city to look for Moses, but they hide him, and Ramses begins to execute people to find Moses. Moses convinces the people for the war and begins to train them. They attack Ramses' army but are badly defeated in battle, and Ramses burns their homes. Moses goes to the same mountain again to meet God's messenger and tells him that such a battle takes time. While he is talking to God, Joshua watches him, and the messenger says now God will do what is necessary and leaves. After that, many kinds of plagues come upon this nation, the plagues of fishes, the plagues of bees, the plagues of frogs, seeing which Ramses would have been very angry. People start dying and Ramses' mouth is corrupted by disease. Moses waits for a long time for the messenger to visit him, but no one comes and he returns shouting. The granary runs out of grain and people force their way into the granary. Seeing this, the army attacks them and suddenly everything stops with a powerful flash. Ramses offers to Moses that if any other plague occurs, I will bring my terror and every Hebrew child will not be able to walk again. He calls himself God, saying let's just see who's more effective at killing. Moses goes to meet the messenger who tells him that Ramses isn't accepting your offer and now God will make something worse. Joshua again watches him quietly and listens when the messenger announces his new punishment for the nation. The day appears, Moses reaches the palace but is stopped by the guards and Keon lets him go inside. Moses confronts Ramses and he refuses to listen, insisting that to free the slaves would be economically impossible. Before leaving, Moses asks him to free the slaves before dawn, and after that, he'll protect his child. Moses then goes to the village and tells about the 10th plague, which will be the death of all firstborn children. The villagers feared it and asked him about the solution. Moses orders them to kill the lambs and paint their doors with their blood and God will accept their sacrifice. The villagers did the same thing, and as night falls, the darkness takes over the whole city. The children of those who disobey him die, including Ramses' son. Ramses weeps at the sight of his son's dead body, while Moses watches in shock. The next day, Ramses arrives at the village with his child's dead body. He asks Moses, is that what your God wants, to kill innocent kids? Moses remains quiet and he orders them to leave the city. All the people of Egypt accepted Moses as their messenger and started the migration. After burying his son, Ramses sets out with his army to attack Moses and his people. While reaching the mountains, Moses doesn't know where to go and asks God for help. He doesn't get any response, and keeping his faith, he guides his people from the mountain path. Ramses and his army arrive at the site where, seeing their horse chariot, he discovers what way they uses. Moses and the Hebrews arrive at the edge of the sea, uncertain about what to do. At night they pitch their tents there and Moses throws his sword into the sea in distress as his faith begins to weaken. The sword sinks straight into the surface of the sea and Moses sees a bright object falling from the sky into the sea. The next dawn, they see the Red Sea revert to its normal state, and Moses asks them to move forward. Aaron says that we don't want to put our lives in danger because we are not slaves anymore. Listening to this, Moses asks them to keep their faith in him because God is with them. They move ahead as the sea dries up, while Ramses and his army also reach there. Crossing the Red Sea, the majority of the Egyptians drown while Moses survives and makes his way back to the Hebrews. Ramses is revealed to have survived, but he is distraught over the destruction of his army. Moses leads the Hebrews back to Midian, where he reunites with Zipporah and Gershom. At Mount Sinai, after seeing Malak's displeasure at the Hebrews' construction of the golden calf, Moses transcribes the 10 Commandments. Years later, an elderly Moses riding with the Ark of the Covenant sees Malak walking with the Hebrews through the desert. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos.